What happened next would expose a secret buried in his past, save a little girl's life, and change everything he thought he knew about love, loss, and he was a powerful CEO, cold, proud, and untouchable. She was just the new cleaner, invisible to everyone, until she found a child's drawing under his desk. Scrawled in shaky crayon were 3 haunting words: "Help me, Daddy." Before we dive into the thrilling details of this story, don't forget to subscribe and share where you're watching from. The marble floors of the Langford Tower gleamed, not because of the people who worked there, but because of one woman. Maria Alvarez, the new cleaner, moved quietly through the hallways before sunrise. Her soft humming echoed faintly, a melody she once sang to her own daughter, before life took everything from her. At the top of the tower, Ethan Langford, the cold, commanding CEO, stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, sipping his imported espresso. He'd inherited both the company and the attitude. He believed success was measured in quarterly reports, not kindness. When Maria accidentally bumped into him one morning while mopping near his office, coffee spilled onto his tailored suit. "Watch where you're going," he barked. "You're not at home cleaning some shack. This is Langford Enterprises." Maria bowed her head. "I'm sorry, sir." He didn't even hear her. He was already on a call. But Maria noticed something he didn't. Every night, after the building emptied, she found tiny drawings under Ethan's desk, childish sketches of a girl crying behind a locked door. Sometimes there were words too: "Help me. Daddy doesn't see." At first, she thought they were left by mistake. But then she saw the initials at the bottom corner: A.L. Abigail Langford. The CEO's 12-year-old daughter. Maria hesitated for days. She needed the job. But when she overheard Ethan yelling on the phone one night, his voice breaking for a split second, she made a choice. She slipped one of the drawings into an envelope and wrote, "Your daughter needs you." The next morning, Ethan stormed into his office holding the envelope. "Who did this?" Maria stepped forward. "I did, sir. Because someone is crying for you, and you're too busy to hear her." His jaw tightened, ready with anger, but then his phone buzzed. It was the housekeeper. "Sir." "Abigail's locked herself in her room again. She won't come out." That night, Ethan sat in his daughter's doorway, staring at her crayon drawings taped to the wall, the same ones Maria had found. He realized for the first time how distant he'd become since his wife's death. Abigail wasn't acting out, she was reaching out. Maria was fired the next morning, at least, that's what everyone thought. But 2 weeks later, when Ethan hosted a charity gala for children's mental health, Maria stood beside him, not as a cleaner, but as the new head of family outreach, the program she'd inspired. The crowd applauded, tears in their eyes. Ethan smiled, humbled and changed. But as Maria stepped off the stage, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. A child's voice whispered on the other end. "Miss Maria. I think I need your help too." The applause from the gala still echoed in Maria's ears as she stepped into the cool night air. For the first time in years, she felt peace, real peace. She had her job back, a purpose, and even Ethan Langford had learned how to smile again. Then her phone buzzed. "Miss Maria," the tiny voice trembled through the line. "I think I need your help too." Maria froze. "Sweetheart, who is this?" A long pause. Then, a sob. "My name is Lily. I can't talk long. He's coming." The line went dead. That night, Maria barely slept. The voice haunted her, fragile, afraid, too much like her own daughter's voice from years ago, before the accident that had taken her. In the morning, she went to Ethan's office. He was already there, reading over reports, his tie loose, a rare sight. "Ethan," she began, "I think a child's in danger. She called me last night. I don't know how she got my number." Ethan frowned. "Maybe it was a prank." Maria shook her head. "No. She knew my name. She sounded desperate." He leaned back, thoughtful. "Did she say where she was?" "Only that someone was coming. And she said her name, Lily." At that, Ethan's expression changed. A flicker of recognition. "What is it?" Maria asked. He hesitated. "Lily Collins. My late wife's goddaughter. Her mother used to work for me, before she disappeared." Maria's stomach dropped. "Disappeared?" "She moved away. Or at least, that's what I was told." Maria glanced down at her phone, the missed call still glowing on the screen. "Then someone's lying." Later that evening, Maria sat in her small apartment, staring at the framed photo of her own lost child. She knew she couldn't ignore the voice. So she called back. No answer. She texted, "Lily, it's Maria. Are you safe?" A reply came seconds later. "He locked me in the basement again. Please hurry." Maria's heart raced. She grabbed her coat and keys, dialing Ethan on speaker. "She's in trouble," she said. "We need to find her." Ethan's voice was tight with fear. "Send me the number. I'll trace it." But before she could, another message flashed on her phone. A blurry photo. A handprint on a dusty wall, and behind it, a shadow. Then, one final text, "He knows you're coming." The photo wouldn't leave Maria's mind, the faint outline of a small hand pressed against a dusty basement wall, and that shadow just beyond it. When she showed it to Ethan, his face went pale. "That wallpaper," he whispered. "It's from one of my old properties. The country house we sold after my wife passed." Maria's pulse quickened. "You mean the house your wife's goddaughter used to live in?" He nodded. "Yes, but it was supposed to be empty. It's been closed for years." Maria stood abruptly. "Then Lily's not supposed to be there either." Within an hour, they were driving down a lonely road, headlights cutting through sheets of rain. The countryside was swallowed in darkness. Ethan gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "I thought selling that place would erase the memories," he muttered. "But maybe I erased something I wasn't meant to forget." Maria looked out the window. "Sometimes the things we try to bury are still breathing." When they reached the property, the gate was rusted shut. Maria climbed through the gap and shivered. The air smelled of damp wood and something older, forgotten. Inside, the rooms were filled with echoes. Torn curtains, dust-thick air, and faint footprints too small to belong to an adult. "Lily?" Maria called softly. "It's Maria, sweetheart. I came to help you." No answer. Only the sound of dripping water somewhere below. They followed the noise to the basement door. It was locked from the outside. Ethan broke it open. A dim bulb flickered to life, swinging gently above a small mattress, a pile of crayons, and a single word scrawled on the concrete wall in shaky letters, "Help." Maria knelt beside the mattress, tears welling. She was here. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed. He answered, still staring at the writing on the wall. A man's voice crackled through. "You shouldn't have come back, Langford. Some secrets were meant to stay buried." The line went dead. Maria looked at him, fear etched across her face. "Who was that?" Ethan swallowed hard. "My old business partner, the one who vanished after Claire's death." He turned toward the staircase, only to see that the front door above had just slammed shut. And footsteps were coming down. The echo of footsteps descended, slow and deliberate, crunching over shards of old plaster. Maria's breath hitched. Ethan stepped in front of her instinctively, shielding her from the narrow stairway. "Who's there?" Ethan called out, his voice trembling more than he wanted it to. A beam of light swept across the basement, then the outline of a man appeared, tall, gaunt, with a flashlight in one hand and a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Well, well," the stranger said softly. "The mighty Ethan Langford finally returns to the scene of the crime." "Raymond?" Ethan's voice cracked. "You were supposed to be dead." Raymond Cole, Ethan's former business partner, the man who vanished after Claire Langford's fatal accident, stepped closer. His clothes were tattered, his hair streaked with gray, but his gaze burned with old resentment. "Not dead," he said. "Just forgotten. Like the girl you both left behind." Maria's stomach turned. "Lily?" Raymond chuckled darkly. "Ah, the cleaner who plays hero. You really think you can fix everything with kindness?" Ethan stepped forward. "Where is she, Raymond? What have you done?" Raymond's smile twisted. "She's fine. For now. I raised her better than either of you could have. But she wanted to tell the truth, and that's a dangerous thing." He tossed something onto the floor. A small charm bracelet, pink beads and a single silver heart. Maria gasped. "That's hers." Ethan's jaw clenched. "You took her?" Raymond leaned in, his voice low. "I protected her. From you. From what your company did to her mother." Maria's eyes widened. "Her mother?" Raymond nodded toward Ethan. "Ask your saintly CEO. He knew Claire's death wasn't an accident." The air thickened. Ethan shook his head slowly, disbelief flickering across his face. "That's not true. The fire was an electrical fault?" Raymond interrupted. "That's what you told the police. But I saw the papers you hid. The lab reports. Claire found out the company was using illegal materials in the construction sites. She threatened to go public." Maria felt her knees weaken. "Ethan." Ethan looked away, shame flooding his expression. "I didn't know until it was too late. I swear to you, I didn't." A faint sound cut through his words. A whimper. It was coming from behind a stack of crates. Maria rushed forward, ignoring Raymond's shout. She pushed aside old boards and boxes until she found a narrow crawl space, and there, crouched and trembling, was Lily. "Sweetheart," Maria whispered, reaching out a shaking hand. "It's okay. You're safe now." But as Lily crawled out, Raymond grabbed her arm. "She's not going anywhere." Ethan lunged. A struggle broke out, a crash, a shout, the sound of glass breaking, and then, just as Maria pulled Lily into her arms, a fire sparked from the knocked-over lantern. Flames licked across the floorboards. "Ethan!" Maria screamed. He turned toward her, coughing through the smoke, trying to reach them, but Raymond's hand shot out, dragging him back. "You'll burn with your lies, Langford," Raymond shouted. And then the basement ceiling cracked. The world exploded in fire and dust. Smoke clawed at the air. The old beams groaned as the fire devoured the basement walls. Maria shielded Lily with her body, coughing, eyes burning. "Stay with me, sweetheart. Don't close your eyes. Maria." Ethan's voice rang through the chaos, hoarse, desperate. He was pinned beneath a fallen beam, flames creeping closer. "Go," he shouted. "Get her out." But Maria shook her head, crawling toward him. "Not without you." She braced her shoulder under the beam and pushed with everything she had. Her muscles screamed, her lungs ached, and then, with a sharp crack, it lifted just enough for Ethan to crawl free. He grabbed Maria's hand, pulling her and Lily toward the staircase, but halfway up, the stairs collapsed behind them with a thunderous crash, sealing Raymond inside. "Leave me." Raymond coughed from below, his voice fading. "You don't know the whole story." The smoke swallowed his words. Outside, rain pounded against the smoldering ruins as the fire truck sirens wailed in the distance. Maria clutched Lily close beneath a soaked blanket, whispering prayers into her hair. Ethan sat beside them, his face streaked with soot and tears. "I didn't know," he said quietly. "About Claire, about the construction cover-up. Raymond must have kept the evidence. I thought she just—" He couldn't finish. Maria looked at him, her tone soft but steady. "Then it's time to make it right." Lily stirred in her arms, whispering, "He tried to protect me." Maria brushed her hair back. "Raymond?" Lily nodded weakly. "He said, he was hiding me because they wanted to find the file. The one that proves what really happened to Mrs. Langford." Ethan's head snapped up. "You mean, there's still proof?" Lily reached into her small coat pocket and pulled out a charred flash drive. "He told me to give this to you if he didn't come back." Hours later, at Langford Tower, the city skyline glimmered through the rain-streaked windows as Ethan plugged the flash drive into his laptop. Maria stood beside him, holding Lily's hand. The screen flickered, then a series of folders appeared. Blueprints. Financial statements. Emails. One labeled simply, "Confession." Ethan clicked it. A video opened, his late wife, Claire, sitting in her office, her voice trembling but determined. "If you're seeing this," she said, "then I've found proof that Langford Enterprises has been using unapproved materials in their housing projects. I can't stay silent, no matter who it hurts, even if it means losing everything." Ethan's breath caught. "She tried to tell me. I didn't listen." Maria placed a hand on his shoulder. "Now you can." He looked at her, at the woman he once mocked, who had just saved his daughter, his soul, and perhaps his legacy. "I don't deserve forgiveness," he whispered. Maria smiled faintly. "No one does. That's what makes it real." Lily leaned against Maria, eyes heavy with sleep. "Are we safe now?" Maria kissed her forehead. "We are, sweetheart. For tonight." But as the lights in the office flickered, just for a moment, Maria glanced at the dark window. Across the street, in a neighboring building, a faint red light blinked. A camera lens. Watching. Recording. And on Ethan's laptop, another folder suddenly appeared on its own, one they hadn't opened. It was labeled, Project Resurrection. Maria's heart froze. "Ethan, what's that?" He frowned, clicking it open. Lines of encrypted code filled the screen, and beneath it, a single message typed itself slowly across the monitor. "You saved one child. But how many more are hidden?" The rain had stopped by morning, but the city still felt heavy with secrets. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at the message glowing on his screen. "You saved one child. But how many more are hidden?" Maria stood behind him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. "Someone's trying to tell us something. Or warn us." Lily sat curled up on the office couch, sipping hot cocoa, her small fingers still wrapped around the silver charm bracelet she'd rescued from the ashes. Ethan turned toward Maria. "If this Project Resurrection is real, it means my company, our name, was being used for something else. Something hidden." Maria nodded slowly. "Then we need to uncover it. Together." They began combing through the files, line by line, folder by folder. Most were encrypted, filled with codes and project numbers. But one caught Maria's eye: R47, Children's Health Initiative. "It sounds harmless," she murmured. Ethan frowned. "That's what makes it dangerous." The file contained a list of abandoned construction sites, some in rural areas, some under the guise of community centers that had never opened. Every site had a special allocation note beside it. What were they building? Maria asked quietly. Ethan's face went pale. They weren't building, they were hiding. He pointed to a familiar name on the list: Willow Creek Facility. "That's where Claire filmed her confession," he whispered. Later that day, the three of them drove out to Willow Creek. The building stood silent among the pines, its sign faded, the front doors chained shut. Maria's flashlight beam caught something on the wall, a painted logo, a dove carrying a key. "Hope Foundation," she read. "Wasn't that your wife's charity?" Ethan nodded slowly. "She started it to help foster children. I thought it shut down when she died." Maria's brow furrowed. "Then why are there fresh tire tracks out front?" They followed the marks around the back of the building to a small loading dock. The door there wasn't locked, just slightly ajar, as if someone had left in a hurry. Inside, the rooms were filled with dust and silence, until Lily tugged at Maria's sleeve. "Look." On the far wall, drawn in crayon, a familiar sight, another small handprint, and beneath it, the words, "Please find us too." Maria knelt, her throat tight. "There are more children, Ethan. Someone's been bringing them here." Ethan's jaw set, guilt and resolve warring in his eyes. "Then we're not leaving until we find them." A soft creak sounded above them, footsteps on the second floor. Maria froze. "Someone's still here." Ethan motioned for her to stay back, but before he could move, Lily whispered, "I know that sound." Maria looked down. "You do?" Lily nodded, eyes wide. "It's her. The lady from the fire. Mrs. Langford." Ethan's heart stopped. "Lily, what are you saying?" "She didn't die," Lily whispered. "She told me to wait for you." Ethan froze. For a moment, the air itself seemed to stop moving. Only the faint creak from the second floor broke the silence. "Lily," he whispered, his voice trembling. "What do you mean she told you to wait for me?" The little girl clutched Maria's hand. "When Mr. Raymond hid me, a lady came sometimes. She brought food, and she said her name was Claire. She told me to be brave, that one day, my dad would come. Maria's eyes widened. Claire, your wife? Ethan shook his head slowly. That's impossible. I saw her car after the fire. There was nothing left. But Lily's gaze was steady, almost pleading. She said you'd think that. She said they made you believe. The sound came again, soft, cautious steps across the floor above. Maria squeezed Ethan's arm. Whether it's her or not, someone's up there. They climbed the old staircase together, boards groaning under their weight. The air smelled faintly of smoke and lavender, an odd, familiar mix that made Ethan's chest tighten. At the end of the hallway, a door was slightly open. Light flickered through the crack. Ethan hesitated, his hand hovering over the handle. What if it's really her? Maria met his gaze. Then it's time to listen. He pushed the door open. The room was dim, lined with filing cabinets and faded photographs. A small desk lamp burned beside a stack of papers, and beside it sat a woman, her back to them, her hair streaked with silver, pulled into the same loose knot Claire used to wear. Claire? Ethan whispered. The woman turned. Her face was thinner, her eyes lined with grief and resolve, but unmistakably, it was her. Hello, Ethan, she said softly. You finally found us. He stumbled forward, unable to speak. How are you alive? Claire smiled sadly. Because Raymond saved me. He pulled me from the fire the night it started. But he made me hide, he said the truth was bigger than both of us. Maria stepped closer, her heart pounding. The truth about Project Resurrection? Claire nodded. About the children. About what your company really funded. Ethan sank into a chair, shock washing over him. Claire. I didn't know. I swear. I know, she interrupted gently. That's why I left the message. I wanted you to see what we were fighting for. Lily moved forward shyly. You're real. Claire smiled, kneeling before her. You were so brave, Lily. You kept the secret safe. Just then, the computer on the desk beeped. A new message flashed across the screen. System alert, remote data transfer initiated. Claire's face went pale. No, they found me. Who? Maria asked. Before she could answer, a van engine roared outside, headlights slicing through the cracks in the boarded windows. Claire turned to Ethan, urgency burning in her voice. There isn't much time. If they get this data, everything we've done, everything these children went through, will be erased. Ethan grabbed her shoulders. Then tell me what to do. Claire met his eyes, tears glimmering. You have to finish what I started. Save the others. Maria's phone buzzed then, an unknown number, the same as before. She glanced down. The text was short, chilling, and familiar. You found her. But can you keep her? Outside, the van doors slammed shut. And somewhere deep in the building, the lights went out. The lights blinked once, then darkness wrapped the room. For a moment, all anyone could hear was the distant rumble of the van's engine and the rain beginning again outside. Maria reached for Lily's hand. Stay close, sweetheart. Ethan found a small flashlight in the drawer and switched it on, its thin beam cutting a trembling line through the dust. Claire pointed toward the corner of the room. There's a back stairwell. It leads to the loading dock, if it's still clear. They hurried through the narrow hallway, papers scattering around them as wind burst through a cracked window. Downstairs, a door slammed. Footsteps echoed, several pairs, quick and purposeful. Maria's heart pounded. They're inside. Ethan took a breath, steadying himself. We can't fight them. We run. They slipped down the back stairwell, the air cold and damp. At the bottom was a metal door chained from the outside. Claire reached into her pocket, pulling out a small ring of keys. Her hands shook as she tried each one. Hurry, Maria urged softly. On the fourth try, the chain fell away with a sharp clink. They pushed the door open into the night. The rain had turned to mist, wrapping the trees in gray. Head for the woods, Ethan said. There's an old service road that leads to town. They started running, Maria holding Lily's hand, Ethan supporting Claire. Behind them, a shout rang out and a flashlight beam cut across the clearing. Go! Ethan whispered. Don't stop. They reached the edge of the trees just as tires screeched on gravel. The van had circled around. Ethan turned back. Get them out, Maria. I'll hold them off. Maria grabbed his arm. No. You can't do this alone. He met her eyes, guilt and gratitude in his expression. I spent years hiding from the truth. Maybe this is how I start making it right. Before she could argue, he ran toward the lights, waving his arms to draw attention away. Maria pulled Claire and Lily deeper into the woods, the flashlight bouncing wildly in her hand. The rain softened to a whisper, and through the trees, a faint golden glow appeared, a small cabin with smoke rising from its chimney. Someone's there, Claire whispered. Maybe we can call for help. They reached the porch and knocked. The door creaked open slowly. Inside, the warm light revealed shelves of old books and a fire crackling gently. And sitting at a table, calm as though she had been expecting them, was an elderly woman. I wondered how long it would take you, the woman said kindly. Claire Langford, Maria Alvarez, and the little one, welcome. Maria blinked. Who are you? The woman smiled, her eyes sharp and knowing. Let's just say I've been keeping the children safe. And I know where the others are. Before Maria could speak again, thunder rolled, and from somewhere behind the cabin came Ethan's voice calling her name. Maria turned toward the sound, heart racing. Ethan? But the woman's smile faded. That's not him, she whispered. They found us first. The cabin door thudded shut behind them. Outside, thunder rolled again, closer this time, followed by a faint voice that sounded just like Ethan's, calling Maria's name through the rain. Maria clutched Lily to her chest. If that isn't him, she whispered, then who is it? The elderly woman moved toward the window, drawing the curtain with a steady hand. Whoever they are, they'll try to make you believe they're friends. Her tone was calm, but her eyes, gray and clear as glass, held years of knowing. Claire stepped forward. You said you've been keeping the children safe. From who? The woman gave a small, sad smile. From the ones who twisted your foundation's mission. Project Resurrection was never meant to harm anyone. It began as an outreach for orphaned kids. But when the board found ways to profit, the good people vanished, and the little ones were hidden away. She looked at Maria. You've already met one, Lily. There are more, scattered in places they call shelters. I've spent years moving them when I could. Maria's throat tightened. Then you're the reason they're still alive. The woman shook her head gently. No, my dear. I only delayed what's coming. A knock rattled the cabin door, 3 sharp raps, then silence. Lily flinched. "That's how they knock," she whispered. Claire's hand went to the old woman's arm. "Is there another way out?" "In the cellar," the woman said. "Go through the pantry, lift the trapdoor. There's a tunnel that leads to the creek." Maria hesitated. "What about you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I'll buy you time. I'm not as frail as I look." They slipped through the pantry and down the narrow steps. The air smelled of damp earth and pine. As they crawled through the tunnel, faint voices echoed behind them, men searching, the cabin door crashing open. Maria kept her voice calm. "Almost there, Lily. Just a little further." Light appeared ahead, moonlight shimmering off running water. They emerged by the creek, soaked and shivering but alive. Claire turned back toward the tunnel entrance. "She's still up there. We have to go back." Maria shook her head. "If we do, we'll be caught. We need to find Ethan." At the mention of his name, Lily tugged at Maria's sleeve and pointed downstream. Through the mist, a single lantern bobbed toward them, slow, unsteady, as if carried by someone wounded. "Ethan?" Maria called softly. The light stopped, then began moving closer. But when it reached the bank, it wasn't Ethan who stepped into view. It was a young man in a rain-soaked coat, one Maria had never seen before, holding Ethan's watch in his hand. He looked up at her, eyes full of urgency. "Mrs. Langford sent me," he said. "She says it's time you learned who's really running Project Resurrection." He pressed the watch into her palm. Inside its cover was a tiny folded note written in Claire's familiar handwriting. "The truth isn't buried, it's waiting in the light." Maria looked up to ask the man what it meant, but he was already gone, fading into the fog. And somewhere in the distance, another voice called her name, this time, unmistakably Ethan's. The fog thinned as dawn began to glow over the trees. Maria held Ethan's watch tight in her palm, the tiny note inside whispering through her mind. "The truth isn't buried, it's waiting in the light." "Ethan," she called again. Through the mist, he appeared at last, limping, clothes torn, soot across his face, but alive. When he saw Maria and Lily, his shoulders sagged with relief. "You found them," he breathed. Maria nodded, tears in her eyes. "And we found Claire." Ethan froze. "You, what?" "She's alive," Maria said softly. "And she's been fighting to protect the children your company lost." He pressed a trembling hand over his mouth. "All this time." They followed the creek until the path opened onto a narrow road where a ranger's truck waited. The young man who'd given Maria the note stood beside it. "My name's Jacob," he said. "Claire sent me ahead. She wanted me to show you something." He led them to a hilltop overlooking a valley just waking under the sunrise. Below stood a large, white building surrounded by gardens and swings. Children's laughter drifted faintly through the morning air. Maria's breath caught. "What is this place?" Jacob smiled. "The Real Hope Foundation. The one Claire rebuilt in secret. Every child she and the others rescued ended up here." Ethan sank to his knees, overcome. She finished it, she kept her promise. Later that day, Claire arrived in an old Jeep. She stepped out slowly, her eyes shining when she saw Ethan. For a long moment, they simply held each other. No words, just tears, forgiveness, and the quiet relief of things made right. Maria watched from the porch, Lily nestled against her side. "You did it," Lily whispered. "You found their home." Maria smiled. "No, sweetheart. We did." Weeks passed. The Langford name appeared again in headlines, but this time for rebuilding, not destruction. Ethan and Claire reopened the Hope Foundation publicly, dedicating it to transparency and care. Maria became its director, overseeing programs that taught compassion, work, and dignity, the same values that had saved them all. One spring morning, Ethan found her in the garden, humming as she trimmed a row of roses. "Maria," he said quietly, "I don't think I ever thanked you." She looked up, her eyes warm. "You did more than thank me, Ethan. You listened." As the sun climbed higher, children ran across the courtyard, their laughter ringing like bells. Claire joined them, her silver hair gleaming in the light. Lily raced ahead, shouting, "Come on, Miss Maria." Maria laughed and followed, her heart finally light again. For the first time, the old shadows felt far away. They hadn't erased the past, but they had redeemed it. And in the brightness of that morning, Maria knew the message had been right all along. The truth isn't buried, it's waiting in the light.